in case your supply fails. And that's what a lot of processors don't have before they set up their farm. They don't even have what we call a kind of projection. How many quantity of cassava do I really need to use in a day, in a week, in a month? This cassava farm, can it really sustain my production capacity? No. That's why a lot of people set up at a processing center and they may not be able to actually support the process for almost 3 months and they can't find anything. But once you have a backup farm, that means you are guaranteed that if the supply of even the farmers fail or the raw material fails, you can go back to your farm, which is very, very important. And that's what I did first. I don't go into a block farm. I went straight into backup farm because I should be able to determine the price you are selling to me. I should be able to have done these operations and be able to actually calculate the input I'm getting from it. This is what I did this for almost like years. I was able to tell the farmer that this is the cost of cassava price. And when we're having an interaction with the farmers, I called them, I want to be buying cassava from you. And they gave me almost 25,000 per tons of cassava. And I said, okay. I called them for another meeting. Give me the calculation on how you arrive at your 25,000 per month. Sorry, per ton. So when they did the analysis, I did my own analysis. We put it together. And they said the cost of even selling ton of cassava, you want to be productive in international market, supposed to be around 10 to 12,000 naira from January to December. And we start with it and we look at it and they sign the agreement. And they say that they even make more money than even the one they want to sell at 25. That's why with our training school, we said don't assume, never assume knowledge. Go make an informed start. A lot of people assume knowledge to be a farmer. That's why they cannot pay back on their investment. So block farming is a contract farming model. So we call it different names. Some say it's a block farming. Some say it's a smallholder farmers, the agros. But everything depends on who is going to offtake from you. And we keep on telling the farmer, if you don't have a market, don't plant. If you don't have a market, don't plant. And if you don't know the cost of what you are selling, don't plant. If you don't know your investment you are investing on your farmland, don't do it at all. Go and do all your research and know that if I spend almost 100,000 on a farm, I'm going to get plus or minus and I'm going to make X profit of it, and you stand by it. That's the only time you can call yourself a farmer. So, what block farm and backup farm offers? So when you have all these arrangements, it simplifies the process of managing traceability. The reason why we don't actually sell a product into international market is that they want what we call traceability. They want to trace how old is even the cassava you are using. Some of the cassava we buy from even the farmers, we don't even know when it was planted. Some develop a lot of fibers. They even harvested some when they're even not supposed to harvest. You get a lot of water. That's why you have to have a starch content balancer and you have to know what you are buying. But if you have an agreement and a record with the farmers, all those things will be sorted out. That's why the issue of traceability will be sorted out. Then the raw material control, so that's very, very important. You guarantee the availability of raw material. Then the other one is highly coordinated stagger planting. Because we depend on rainfed system in Nigeria. So when the rain set up, everybody goes to the farm one day and plant. And all your products actually mature same time. You don't say no. If you want to work with us, we need to tell you, our extension officer need to tell you when to plant and when you can harvest your product. So if you know all those ones, that means you are not going to leave your cassava for another 18 or 20 months, whereby it's like a tenant that refuses to pack up from the landlord. And the landlord is not getting money back, and the land is still there. So if you leave your cassava not harvested after the expiry of 12 or 14 months, that means you've lost another 1 year on the land. So you cannot do it for anything. So there's a lot of projects that you need to actually put into your farming, not just farming the way it is being done. So those are the area. Then you'll be able to control. I think I talk about the price control. So you'll be able to actually know the price you are buying. Not that this month the pharmacy, because there's a lot of demand for cassava, Madam Yemisi, I will not sell for you for almost 15,000. I'm selling for 30,000. And Yemisi want to run our factory. You'll be begging them to say, please, okay, 25,000. So all those are fake prices that will not actually set in, because you don't want to leave your price and your staff are there. It's not running and you have to pay back. You just have to get something doing. So you have to buy, you have to be at their mercy, and you're supposed to be the one helping them. So those are the area that all these block farm and backup farm will actually solve. Then the potential high technology adoption. So a lot of people, when they engage in that, they will receive training and they know the importance of farming. They are not just farming for farming. See, a lot of farmers go to farm just because they don't have anything to do. But now this agribusiness, you are farming because you want something from the farm, not because you don't have anything to do. So those are the things that will actually open their eyes and see the reason why they need to do farming. Then smallholder farmers enjoy the benefit of improved yield and everything. I think I've talked about that. Because if there's any improved variety coming from IITA, we develop a lot of foundation seed and multiplication seeds from IITA. How does it get to farmers? Because I'm buying from them, I can tell them that I need TME 419 to be planted on this, and I know the quality and the variety of cassava I'm buying. I have almost up to 5 different production lines, and I have different species of cassava for each one I do. My gari go for different species because I don't need too much flour, and I want it to digest faster. I want the one that's a little bit fiber, no starch content, so I want that one. For gari, if it's a bit fiber and everything is okay, it won't float. But for cassava, I want the one that is high starch content. So by doing all those things, you're able to organize, and you know the variety you are getting for each of the farmers, and you know the number of acreage each of the farmers are going to develop for you. So those are the benefits and the advantage. So the constraint that we have, because a lot of developing partners are coming to it, they're not looking at the benefit of the smallholder farmers or the agros. So they just want you to develop almost 1,000 agros and they have to have 2 hectares. No, we put in a lot of consideration to it that before you can be a farmer, what's the average acreage you need to grow that can sustain you? It's not about just everybody go to the farm, no. So we've now found out that for you to come to the farm, you need to have minimum of 10 hectares, that's 25 acres. That won't be able to actually guarantee and sustain your lifestyle. So that's why we say, okay, the impact should rather be deepened. So we need to create the impact than just multiplying the number of people who want to employ. It's like creating employment that will not solve poverty. So we are not ready to engage that. So towards the sustainable industrial processing of cassava, these are the key using block and backup farm. So they will receive the quality training, then and monitoring. You'll be able to monitor each of the farms, and then you'll be able to evaluate and management. Then the model is okay. However, high profile issues such as, okay, financing is very, very important. A lot of banks are saying we can finance farming. At what rate? At what interest rate are they financing? It's not. I keep on telling the banks that, come, you don't understand agribusiness. I've been to agribusiness everything for more than 28 years. So when I'm talking, you should listen. What you are doing is just you are making money from people and you are keeping people poor. You are not using a system that will actually develop the food security. So the financing system, when you approach them, is not even there for most of the young ones to even come in. It's not. A lot of people have been to it. I know a lot of people have gone to farming and they even came back with a lot of, so they need to actually look at the financing, and the input supplier needs to look at what input they actually give it in supporting. That's why we say custom-based financing solution must be required. It's very, very important for us to do that. Very, very important. Then we are working with IDH. They are putting all their effort to make sure that what we are doing, they are supporting to make sure that it really works. Organizing where you can sell the farmers and everything, putting everything together, but still not enough. But we are still working with them, and they are really trying. So, what we should be looking at in the future. So we are talking about the creating of job for the young ones. So if you turn them to be a farmer, it's not really enough, because when you look at the number of time you work on the farm, it's not every day. We now say, okay, in addition to you having your plot of farm, we don't train people in my school, we don't train people as a farmer. We train you as a service provider. You must be able to pick a particular operation within the farming to be able to perfect on. So you can render the services to other farmers. If you train you on weed management, you don't need a lot of money to render weed management. You can make a lot of money within the weed management. Because one thing about weed management is not about mixing the chemical alone. You have to understand the nature of the weed. You have to understand the maturity of the weed. And you have to understand the kind of chemical ratio you are mixing that will not have any residual effect on the crop. Very, very important. I can use herbicide on my farm and you test my product as still organic. There's a system I'm weak and I will apply to it. So those are the things we transfer the knowledge to people who really want to be managing the wood. Is key. If I'm specializing on planting, that means because you do a particular operation from Monday to Tuesday for 1 year, when you are planting, it's as if you are playing. Most of my people planting, they plug in their earpiece and you see them planting and they're happy doing what they are doing. And you calculate the number of acres you are able to do in a day. So we are trying to say, okay, as a youth, we can't train you to be a farmer because farming comprises of a lot of different departments. So you have to expose you to general agriculture, pick a particular operations, have your own farm, but render services for other farmers. In that case, you have something doing every day. And because we engage your stagger planting, so immediately you finish this farm, you go to this other farm, you go to this other, you have something doing, per capita income increases. And when you are making money on your farm that you are working with other people. So that's what we say, okay, it's very important in that. So then further better. Most of the support we've been getting is on this, okay, I'll round it up. I'm always on. So it's on this one. Do not say, okay, the best thing is for us, we should work from the farm. Sorry, from the market to the farm. So we don't just talk on the farm alone, on the farmers alone. We need to actually talk on from the market to the farm. That's demand driven. And we don't really do something when it comes to issue of processing. There's no enough fund that we need to inject on the processing equipment. Some of the processing equipment available is some of us, the personal money we've spent, millions that we spent to develop that other people are copying. I can say it categorically. So that we are not getting benefit. So for us to develop other benefit of what we can't do it. I have a thought of, okay, we met Eba, Gary, and everything that is being done. Can't you do a machine like a food processor that when you want 1 kg of Eba, you just press the button, the Gary and everything is there. It comes out, whether you want it hard or soft. Those are the areas we should be looking at in Africa, whereby our food can actually be accepted all over. So a lot of money, a lot of attentions, and we need to develop a young ones in the area of research into processing equipment so that Nestle will not be complaining that about people are not meeting up the standard. HACCP is very important. So we need to look at all those processing and we need to do. So until demand is proven, production is not worth it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kola Neniji, for that presentation. So we move quickly to the experience of Sultry International. And I think she's not even in the room yet. Okay, can we take Mr. Ashish from AADL? Please, a round of applause for Mr. Ashish, AADL, the ethanol processing factory in Igbesa, Ogun State.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. This word is very difficult to tell actually, prioritize. What we are looking for is an ideal supply chain. Can we please move on? Thank you. When you look at a supply chain, what do you want to look at ideally is what we are looking at. Please don't look at what I have done or what he has done or what she has done. We are looking at what we need to do really in the real sense. The first is the site of the facility where you are. This is very important. If you are not in the right site, you are done for. Because you will have a lot of problems. You will have problems of supply. You will be away from the command area or from where you are supposed to get your raw material. There are a lot of other issues. There are issues like gas, which you need to generate your electricity, your water. So you need to look at all these. You need to look at all these things when you look at the facility. What else do you need? You need an effective farmer development program. You need an effective supplier development program.
Content throughout the year is also a challenge. And then the price. Interestingly, when you mentioned that, something came to my mind. And that's one of the things I want all of us here to try and prefer solution to. As we speak now, the price of cassava is not determined by the farmer. I hope we understand. It's not determined by the farmer. It's not determined by its cost of input. It's determined by the local processors who are making gari and fufu. And they're the ones who determine how much you should pay for cassava. And that's why most people are always ripping us off. They want to buy at very terrible price. But there are so many things we need to look at. How do we? Because even some factories that have actually established contract farming scheme, when it comes to the point of harvest, they'll tell you we cannot sell at this price because so and so is happening. But I know that somebody here will share as part of the experience how they've been able to overcome some of these, which I think we can all learn from. So without much ado, I want to invite Mrs. Yemisi Ironloye of Sultry Starch International to share our own experience with us, how the business has been successful. Please, a round of applause for her while she's making her presentation. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The name of the company is Sultry International Company Limited. Just to correct that. The topic given to me to treat today is the success factors for cassava starch processing investments in Nigeria. So we'll be looking at some of the success factors that can make a starch factory or a cassava processing line, an industrial cassava processing line, to be successful in Nigeria. This is a collection of thoughts from a lot of manufacturers. So this is not just my own thoughts, it's the thought of a cross-section of us. So whatever I'm saying is what possibly the next starch expert or a cassava processing expert to be also saying. First of all, is site selection. If you are looking at doing a large-scale cassava processing, whether starch, flour, ethanol, whatever, once it is a large scale, you must choose your site very well because you are processing large volume of raw material that is very prone to quick deterioration. It has more than 65% of water. So if you are very far away, possibly maybe in the city, you are possibly going to be transporting water over very, very long distance, and it is of no use to you. So you will be faced with a lot of challenges of trucks breaking down, like some of my other colleagues have mentioned. You'll be having very low starch content due to number of days that the product would have used on the road, possibility of the trucks even being hijacked. Now that there's kidnapping everywhere, they could kidnap your cassava truck, especially when the cassava is expensive. You could also have so many problems that can make your production very epileptic. So you must choose your site properly, especially when it has to do with raw material. Also water. You must choose your site possibly close to water. A whole lot of us have made that mistakes. We thought, oh, we have one river by one. If you are close to a river that dries up, it's as good as no water. So if it is good, if it is possible that you are close to a source of water that does not dry, then you have saved yourself some of the headaches that some of us are facing right now. So it's good that it must be close to raw material and close to water. You'll be asking, what's of close to end user? It's easier to transport a truck of starch, a truck of cassava flour or whatever from over 100 kilometers than to transport equivalent of 5 trucks, because you need about 5 to 6 trucks of raw material to produce a truck of your end product. So if you are transporting just one truck of end product, it's just one wahala. Unlike when you have to transport every hour five truck or six truck of your raw material, imagine the amount of wahala. So it's good. It's rather better that you are close to raw material, maybe slightly far from end product. Because it is end product, you can still manage to handle that than when it is raw material that is perishable. By the way, your end product is not perishable within few hours. So it still can manage the hustle and bustle of Nigerian roads. Oh, sorry. Okay. The second point is you just must think of raw material. Unfortunately, we are not in the developed countries where the value chain is so developed. And then you just sit down and say, oh, raw material will come to me. Or you just pass by a village and just see some cassava and you think that is cassava for industry. No, not at all. Cassava for industry is thousands of hectares. 1,000 hectares, 2,000 hectares. Unending sea of cassava is what we are talking about when we are talking about industrial processing. So it's not just to see some, if you come to my village, you will see cassava. Everything in your village may not be enough for Niji Lucas to produce one day. So what are we talking about? Even the whole village, if you plant it. So you can imagine. So you need to sit down if you want to do cassava processing to think, how do I get my raw material? Forget whatever you see. Whatever you see is not up to 5% of what you need. You have to put it as a major cost. It's something you must think about, sleep with, wake up with, and make sure you get it right before you can go into the massive investment of machinery. So we will advise from all of us that are into cassava processing, that if you are thinking of going into large-scale processing, then you must think of your backward integration plan of having outgrowers program or your own block farm or your own private farm. Whichever one you choose, you have to do one. Well, because you just cannot also farm all by yourself. For those who have done it, we have seen that it's still not the successful model. The real successful model today is to work with smallholder farmers. And that's where you need to now put in energy and your own costs. It means you must have in your company people who will work with your farmers, who will help organize the farmers, who will train the farmers, who will help provide mechanization for farmers, who will help to provide them with herbicides, who will help them to do simple bookkeeping, who will provide this training. Don't forget, they are used to farming for food. Now you want them to farm for money, for commercial. It's a totally different ball game. Before, they just put cassava and go home. In 1 year, they come, they will still see to tons and tons every day. Then you are saying, you can't be planting 3 sticks in 1 hectare. You have to do 10,000 sticks. Then you have to start teaching them how to do 10,000 sticks, what herbicides they should use, possibly have demo plot like my brother has said. So everything that my other colleagues have said is being summarized into my own presentation to say you must be part of the life of the farmers that will supply you. You can't dissociate yourself if you really want a very successful starch processing line or a very successful industrial cassava processing line. And that starts from training at the farm site. It starts from helping them to understand how they should do their mechanization. It also involves you taking them to the bank to take advantage of Anchor Brass Scheme. We are talking about Anchor Brass Scheme. Anchor Brass Scheme, thank God CBN is here. Anchor Brass Scheme is not going to happen if the industrialists don't take it and run with it. Because don't forget, they must provide an uptaker. don't also forget that they must provide someone who provides a guarantee. So it's still a lot on the shoulder of the processor to provide a sort of a level playing ground for the farmers to be able to farm. And that's where the financials should understand that what we carry as industrialists is so much. You're actually like just a local government person to them. You are the federal government, they see. Wherever you plant a cassava processing line that is big, other than Gary, they're already looking on to you for every sustainable, everything to make them grow. And you really must think about it. Otherwise, your plant will run today, shut down tomorrow, run today. It's only when there's glut that you run. When there's no glut, you are not sustaining. Now, when you have your own plan, you will be able to run, whether there is rain or no rain, whether there is glut or no glut, because the farmers are structured and they are planting according to the way you want them to harvest in staggered form, like my other colleagues have said. We must have regular meetings and inspections, and that should include the banks, the extension officers regularly to evaluate, to get their feedback. You can send field officers out, but you as owner of business must find time to sit down with the farmers to listen to them. So sometimes the banks that are funding can come, even if they've not funded. Just call your banks. The more they talk with the farmers, the more it increases their confidence to want to do business with your set of farmers. The more you pride them, it's just like you have a young wife or a young lady and you are priding her around. You understand? So for farmers also, to get bankers to want to bank them, remember they are not very attractive. Remember they don't have KYC. Remember they don't have collateral. They don't have anything. But they have land and they have integrity. I still believe Nigerian farmers have a lot of integrity. I'm one person who stands, I have always said it, I believe Nigerian farmers have integrity. When farming fails, most of the time, go and look at it. It's either you didn't give the farmers, you gave someone else that you thought was a farmer. Oh yes. If you give the real farmers, they protect their names. They will say, hey, me, Omolagbaja. No, I will pay that debt. I will pay that. Because they still that traditional, how will I say it now? There's that traditional pride that we still have in Nigeria. So I'm saying this because I know bankers are here. Nigerian farmers are good people. You can lend to them. We have been lending to them. And they have been paying back. 95% recovery in almost every loan we give out. So that means Nigerian farmers are supposed to be given an applause in this meeting. So if we have good Nigerian farmers, if they turn bad, it's either we didn't do some things we need to do. So if we can sit down with them, talk with them, let the banks come in, listen to them, look at the farms. As they follow through over 1 year, you will see them start to grow interest in wanting to fund those farmers. Because they are beginning to understand how they plant, how it takes 12 months for the crop to come, the trouble they go through to bring the crop. They will understand. So when they are structuring the loan, they will be able to structure the loan in such a way that it will fit into processing and it will also make the farmer be able to repay. That was why the anchor brass scheme, when it was schemed, I personally insist it must be nothing less than 18 months for cassava. Why? Because you need 3 months minimum to get the crop in the soil. And then 12 months complete for the crop to be ready. That's 12 months. You cannot pull out 10 hectares in 1 day. You possibly, if it's a processor that has about 2,000 hectares of farmland belonging to farmers, he will need to go from one farmer to the other, isn't it? So he needs another 60 months. So for me, if you are going to structure cassava farming for my farmers, I insist, minimum 18 months, 2 months, 2 years is the best for me. That way it will not go bad. They will be paid, it will not be payment within 6 months. So that within that 6 months, everyone would have paid down. It will start from those who planted the first. It will just go in the circle of how the planting circle was. You understand? So you as the investor, you must understand, not just because you want to collect money for your farmers. Then it goes back, it will come on your head. Don't forget you are the one who provided collateral. So it will crumble on you. But from beginning, if you allow them to say, take the first year to understudy us. Call them for meetings. Let them sit down, let the farmers talk about their problems and all. So when they take time to structure it, you will see that the loan will come out, it will favor the farmer, it will be suitable for repayment, and then the factories will run all the year round. Oh, this thing is a bit hard, I don't know. Okay, customer retention. Oh God. This is the next line. Yeah, sure. Okay. Quality. No, I thought customer retention was the next slide. Okay. Consistency. Now, after you have gotten your raw material, then you produce, and then you must be consistent in your quality. Like Shehu said when she did her presentation, they want good quality. In Nigeria, we have standard. NIS standard is all what we all follow. So the standard is there. Whatever products you are producing, if you are selling, because you are a commercial farmer, a commercial processor, you are definitely selling to an end user that's also a bulk buyer, whichever level of end user that end user is. They want consistency in quality. So you must ensure that you have systems that is lead proof, that have gone to HACCP, your GMP, all your cleaning procedures, hygienic rules and everything must be intact so that you are able to produce quality that meets the standard that can be sold. I think one of the major problems we have right now in Nigeria is the fact that the cassava flour we the grade is not yet up to the level that is required. Not because, maybe I just buttress on what Shehu said, not because we are not producing, we cannot produce quality that can be sold, but because for some reason, when the NIS standard was developed about 15 years ago, we need to review it. Just like we have reviewed cocoa, we have reviewed palm oil, and I'm aware we reviewed so many other products. Cassava and cassava products have not been reviewed. It has only been produced only once. And now, as at that time, nobody was buying. So there was no requirement. Those who are buying, who need to use it, have not said, this is what I need as parameter to use. So something was just done so that there will be a standard. Now, the users are saying, this is just all I need to be able to use this product. I just need a C4. I really don't need an A star. A C4 is just good for me. I'm using the language we can understand. Now, you insist you must have an A. If you say you must have an A, it means that only one or two will be able to get an A. Meanwhile, about 100 of us would have been able to make a C, and more people would have been able to sell and then develop this industry faster. So I am pleading, I know SON is here, I'm not sure, that we review the cassava flour, especially the cassava flour policy for Nigeria, so that we can be able to sell more products, especially now that the product is getting more usage other than bread, and more people can be able to go into that industry and widen the space. So the next one is customer retention. You need to retain your customers by ensuring that you carry out your factory in the way that will be acceptable to them, hygienically, ensuring that you have consistency, your packaging, and all of that. And of course, today we have so many companies that are buying cassava products in Nigeria. Volume. Volume is a relative term. I was asked to speak on this. It's from one investor to the other, really. So whatever I'm saying here is not cast on stone. It's just an idea. If you are not sure of your raw material, don't put a gigantic factory. It will end up being underutilized. It means more energy, more power, more everything, and you are producing less than capacity, it will wipe out. From experience of past stories. So if you can start with an economically viable capacity, which we have found to be about 20 tons today, and then you can scale up gradually as your raw material is scaling up. That way, you will not have a factory that is so big, and your raw material is just, you are struggling to develop it. So, it also still depends on individual. Who knows? You could get some billions, and you decide to you just farm 20,000 hectares of farmland at once, then you can put a gigantic factory right in the middle of it. But even if you have all the land to farm it itself, cassava farming is not for small boys. It's tough business. So you must put all of that into consideration that it's a 1-year crop. It's not like corn. When they design loans for corn, for maize, 3 months, they say repayment in 6 months. And they do it. But cassava is not like that. It is 1 year solid in the soil. Before even the harvesting is trouble. The planting is wahala. So with all of that put together, you must put that in mind when you are doing your sizing of factory. To show that except you are really on top of your game, don't put a very, very, very massive plant from the start. You could jump when you have muscles, you can now jump very high. Compliance, we have regulatory body in Nigeria that actually controls the standard of what we do. Local regulatory for Nigeria right now is NIS, and that is SON. And they are doing a good job about that. Research and development, well, we're all aware IIT is on top of it. Any part of cassava processing you want, information, IIT is top on the list. IFDC is doing a good job as well, especially in the cassava development, and even in smallholder farmers as support for grants at the grassroots. They are also providing a lot of support for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think at this point, our appetite has been whet. And I think we should be hungry now. If we are not hungry, we can continue with the next set and then move on quickly. But before everybody here turns me to a Stephen and you stone me to death, let me now say we have gotten to a good point where we can break for lunch and then we can continue immediately after lunch. Because of our schedule and because of the way we have utilized our time, we will resume exactly 3 o'clock. So that means we have 40 minutes for the break. And the lunch, I think all of us here have gotten our ticket. So please, let's just go to the restaurant. They collect your ticket from you and give you a plate of food instead. So you are doing trade by barter. So I wish you a wonderful lunch. Thank you very much.
Please. So our major constraint, with all these things, we have arrays of constraints. One, rapid commercialization of research findings. Many of these research findings that we can make good use of it, at times we have sort of hiccup in commercializing, in making it, in pushing it to private sector. Take, for example, extension services in Nigeria. Extension services is very good, but nobody is ready to pay for it in the private sector. It is only government, but it gets to a point that even the burden is too much on the government. But not that government will relent their effort in supporting extension, but based on limited resources, at least we have our own limits. We may not be able to cover everything. Then lack of access to sufficient and good quality seed. We have been working on that closely with IITA and National Root Crop Research Institute, Umudike, continuously to develop a good variety of cassava. Then, on reliable input distribution system, which was happening in the past about the growth enhancement scheme, whereby they dump input in the local government, and at the end of the day, farmers abandon it, and those things are wasted. But so far, so good. We were able to use our state offices to monitor and make sure those things are done well. Then on sustainable budget commitment to GES program. GES program is very large. Even the last we did, the ministry incurred a lot of debt. Incurred up to the tune of about 50 billion. We continue to pay. Yes, we continue to pay more than 3 years. So it's a large program, and we will like the partners, our partners, to support us in this area. Government alone may not be able to do it very well. And even for sustainability, it is better the thing is being handled by private sector at the end of the day, so that government can, ease out and give a sort of good strategy. Then government interference in the development of private sector production and supply. Well, all those things are still with input supply system. Those are some of the problems we were facing then. Then low level of commercialization, access to information stroke knowledge. Fine. Like the presenter of TAAT mentioned that there's a sort of a platform whereby the business people can connect them. So we have been facing some of these problems. Even in the ministry, people will come and tell us, we planted so much hectares of cassava, no buyer, this, that, But at least with such a platform, if it is operating, I believe it will go a long way to solve people's problem. Then tenure issue. Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for that presentation. Please a round of applause to him. The next presentation is going to come from the standards. Now, we are going to make it this way. We are going to, the presentation is 10 minutes, and we'd like to keep to the 10 minutes. So once it's 2 minutes to go, you will hear a bang from my phone twice, and then the last one, I'll give the last bang, and then we end. So please, let's keep to time for 10 minutes. Thank you so much, sir.
It's okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, my name is Usman Mohammed. I'm here to present this paper. It's supposed to be presented by Dr. Bartlumi Ugu, who is unavoidably absent. So I'm here to make the presentation. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. The presentation will be mainly on these issues: brief about SON, standardization, standards, quality, benefit of standards, and standard for cassava products. Let's go. Yeah, as you are all aware, the Standards Organization of Nigeria was established in 1971 by an Act number 56, which subsequently go through some amendments. The most recent one is the SON Act number 14 of 2015. SON is a parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, and some of the statutory functions of SON are to develop standards for products, to ensure that locally manufactured and imported products comply with the requirements of the standards through conformity assessment programs. Then SON is the Nigerian's representative and national secretariat for international standard bodies such as ISO, Codex, and some other ones. Yeah, standardization. As you are all aware, standardization is the process of elaborating standards for product and services based on the consensus of different stakeholders. What we mean by consensus of different stakeholders is that SON does not come up on its own to write a standard. A standard is a document that all the stakeholders, come together to make inputs. That through that, a standard is arrived at which SON is the secretariat, and it passed through the Standard Council for approval then, and that makes it a national standard. I can also, make reference to some of our earlier presenters, like the presenter from Nestle and from Parsley, who talk about some parameters in the standard that they think, need to be reviewed. So in such a situation, they are our stakeholders. All they need to do is to initiate for the review of the standard, maybe write officially to SON, pointing out those parameters that they feel should be reviewed. Then SON will now appoint a secretary who will coordinate, the review of the standard, so that the stakeholders can now come out and present those parameters that they feel, because standard is dynamic, it changes just as technology changes all the time, and these are the processes through which a standard is being formulated. Let's go to the next slide. What is a standard? A standard is a technical document containing requirements and specifications a product is expected to have, so as to give assurance in quality and for customer satisfaction. When a product meets the requirements of the standard, that product is, fit to meet the requirements of the standard. That's what the function of a standard, because the standard contains specifications and requirements, which as a manufacturer, it guides the manufacturer in the process of production. These are some of the standards that we have. We have product standard, service standards, code of practice, safety standard, standard for test method, terminology standards, and system certification standards, such as ISO, for management system and some other system standard. What is quality? According to ISO, that's International Organization of Standardization, quality means fit for purpose. What we mean by fit for purpose is a product that will give you satisfaction for what it's been intended for. When a product is manufactured, according to the standard, it is expected that that product will meet the requirement of the, consumers. And in the course of production, we have what we call the quality assurance. Quality assurance is nothing but, stage by stage monitoring of production process, to ensure that what you are producing is in line with the requirements of the standard, so that at the end of the day, your product meets the desired quality and also meets the satisfaction of the consumers. Benefit of standards. When you produce a product, in accordance to the standard, and it is, it meets the requirements of the consumers, it gets easy access, into the market. It has a competitive advantage in the market because it has met the requirements of the standard, and certainly, it will meet the requirement of the consumers. Reduction in waste. When you are producing in accordance to the standard, you discover that you have less wastage in your production process. So also reduction in cost. By the time you have reduction in waste, definitely you have reduction in your cost. Creation of orderliness and compatibility, among others. Next standard. Standards for cassava products. Cassava root is used in the production of industrial products such as ethanol, feeds, chips, gari, and some other ones. Based on this, SON came up with a number of standards which include the following. standard for cassava root, standard for cassava starch, standard for cassava chips, standard for cassava products, determination of total cyanogen enzymatic assay method. These are the number of the standards, and standard for edible cassava flour, and also standard for gari. All these standards are available. As a manufacturer, you need to get a copy so that it will guide you in your production process. For the purpose of this program, we will talk more on the cassava root, being that it is the major ingredient for the production of other cassava products. We have specific requirements for the cassava root. According to the standards, these are some of the specific requirements in the standard, such as moisture content, the starch, sugar content, protein content, fat content, fiber content, and the ash. These are the percentages. These values are what you are expected to obtain, when you are when you intend to produce a quality cassava product. Let's go to the next slide. These are also essential requirements. We talk about specific requirements. These are some of the essential requirements. You need to consider the weight and the length, the firmness of the cassava root, and the wholesomeness of the cassava root. These are some of the parameters. When you see the standard, when you go through the standards, you see more of the parameters. The next slide. And also, we also talk about that a good cassava root should be free from mechanical damage, free of pests, free of abnormal external moisture, free of any foreign smell or taste. Then it must have the characteristic color of a cassava root. The next. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, all that we are trying to say is that, it is necessary for cassava products to comply with the requirements of the relevant standard so that you can achieve the desired quality for consumers' satisfaction, and also for the product to have access into local and international markets. For more information, gentlemen, you can contact any of the SON office nationwide, and our website is also there, son.gov.ng. Sorry. Thank you very much.
A round of applause to him, please. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And he actually kept to the 10 minutes. We appreciate SON for that. The next presenter, we come from NAFDAC. I don't know whether NAFDAC is in the house. Okay, so 10 minutes, please. You're going to give us a presentation on ease of compliance to regulatory guidelines.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. 10 minutes. I'm going to play around with what I have in my slides, because I haven't sat from the beginning of this meeting today to this moment. I perceive that the crop of people that we have, distinguished people that are seated here, who want to hear about processing. All along, people have been talking about crops, agric. NAFDAC regulation actually doesn't cover that. But let me just paint a scenario. One Mrs. Adegbenro, last 3 months in Lagos, she sent some gari and pepper to a daughter in Canada. And a few weeks after, we had the response from Canadian Food Regulatory Agency alerting NAFDAC that they tested those products and they found out that they were not complying. It has microbial contamination, it's cyanide problem, and all of that. Now, just recently, about 3 weeks ago again, there was another alert, international alert from
EU Infosan, EU RAS. RAS is Rapid Alert System for Food and Feeds. That palm oil that was exported also by somebody got there and they analyzed, and of course you realize that that palm oil also used to redden Gary, make Gary red. It had Sudan 2 and Sudan 4, and those chemicals are potential carcinogens. Now we get this is just recent alerts. And I believe that I've looked at what I have on the slide, and I try to make it in such a way that you relate with it. For those of you in the value chain, I don't believe that all of you, I may be wrong, but I tend not to believe that all of you are farming. Some are also processing, I guess, and some are processing not just for the Nigerian market, but also for exports. It may not be now, it could be later. So these informations might be very, very important for you. I don't want to go through what our mandate in NAFDAC is. It's a regulatory body. But I'll zero in on our regulation as it relates to the manufacture of food products, food now, and then the export. There are other things we do, also regulated importation, exportation, and all of that. Next slide. Now, what is compliance? Of course, you know what compliance is. It's just conforming to rules. And those rules possibly could be policies, could be specifications, standards, or law. Thank God my brother has talked about standards, so I don't have much to say. Look at that drawing there, figurative representation, compliance. Next slide. What is regulatory compliance? It's an organizational adherence to laws, regulations, guidelines. We are still talking about laws, we are still talking about guidelines. He talked about standard. We are saying the same thing. Why is it important? I think somebody mentioned all of what is here. To save cost, because if you comply with, a lady came in here and said they can't buy cassava from quite a lot of people because it doesn't conform to standards. So you can imagine after farming, so much of those crops, and then having high hopes that I'll make a lot of money from these products, and it's rejected. So it saves cost. We comply to regulatory requirements. It also ensures quality, higher efficiency. It eliminates risk. It enhances customers or investors' confidence. Next slide. These are just what you know. I'm just re-emphasizing them. All of these people play a lot of role, but I know as business people, we get so hungry. So many regulatory bodies doing several things, but that's a topic for another day. But these are relevant agencies that play a role in food regulation. Next slide, quickly. Okay, now let's see what we do. Remember I've said I'll just take two aspects. The manufacture, what we regulate in terms of manufacture of packaged agricultural products. Now what we regulate is packaged agricultural product. It has to be processed, not packaged, processed and packaged. And then we also play a very big role in export. That was why I started this presentation with scenarios I've painted. We do inspection of where it's produced first to ensure that good manufacturing practice and good hygiene practice are adhered to. The facilities are using and not introducing contaminations into, let's take Gary for example. Cassava, we are talking about cassava, so let's just take the cassava for example. Processing the cassava, if the equipment you are using are not, in processing the cassava to those products, are not imparting deleterious substances to those products. It has to undergo laboratory testing. All the 6 GMP systems, that's what we do in inspection. So we visit the facilities, inspect, ensure that product is tested, ensure that facilities and equipment are in place, ensures that good laboring requirements are adhered to, ensure that good warehousing practice are also adhered to. Why good warehousing practice? Because if you don't store your products, whether as raw or even as a processed one, it could get something that is good from the farm, but because of poor warehousing practice, it could have a very big problem. Now, suffice to say, I don't want to repeat, that good agri practices is so very important. Good agricultural practices are so very important to produce quality products
which will market quality raw material, which will market process into manufactured goods for local markets and also for exports. So like I said, we do inspections and then we test the products and then to ensure that regulatory limits are there. So for example, for Gary now, parameters that are very key like cyanide, like moisture. There are others, but these are very critical parameters. SON has set the standards which must be followed. Then we also have labeling. There are labeling guidelines. There's what we call prepackaging labeling regulations that expect that certain information must be on a processed food package. For example, the name. For example, the ingredients must have to be listed. Why must it be? I don't have all that time. I think let me just to ensure that product labels meet prepackaging labeling regulations. Because if I begin to spend time on one particular issue, I don't know whether the guy at the back will. But the labeling is very important, particularly for those of you who are thinking about exports, because Codex has set a standard. Codex is an international body that regulates, on this, and they expect that certain information must be on the pack, on the label, on the product label. Then, I haven't gone through all of that. Like I told you, inspection, laboratory, testing of the product. Then the product will now go, there'll be an approval panel that will consider using all of these informations I've mentioned, the inspection report, whether the GMP, whether they are okay to be recommended for approval for a NAFDAC registration number to be issued to it, which is more like marketing authorization label. Then the number is given. Next slide. Then these are other things we do. Post-marketing means that even after registration, we have a unit that still goes around to ensure, pick samples, and ensure that this state at which it's registered is still complied with. And then, of course, if it's not, there's a unit called investigation and enforcement. But now that I'm giving a warning, let me look at something I just put down that may not be in this slide, that I think is so very important. Gari is mostly processed generally into cassava flour, flakes, and popo gari, this is popular in the Delta areas. Now, I want to emphasize again and again, a lot of other people have said it, but it needs to be reemphasized that good agri practice is so very important. Because the scenario I painted at the beginning, I skipped something, and that's one of the things that leads to our product reject abroad, is non-compliance with minimal residual limits of pesticides. The farmers use pesticides in the farms. Now, part of it is imparted on the product, maybe because of good agri practice. Poor, they didn't follow guideline on how to administer these pesticides. So that's that. And then inadequate fermentation process that would have ordinarily ensured that the cyanide level is brought to a level that is universally acceptable. Then poor handling and packaging. Inadequate drying and frying. I'm still talking about Gary. And then poor capability, still talking about warehouse. Now, finally, there is an upsurge, there's an increase right now currently in products not complying with specification, particularly those of products that are exported. It's been on the increase, and the image of Nigeria is at stake. Because once an alert comes, it's universally tracked. And then they'll now be talking about mop-up. And at the end of the day, the sad aspect of it is that at the end of the day, they will blacklist that product. We've not recovered from beans because of pesticides, poor agri practice, in handling beans. And it's rejected. Up to 3 years now, we've been battling on making sure that ban is lifted. You can't export beans right now. And we notice that these same issues are still on. Why? Because people are not following export procedures, good export procedures. So, how to avoid it, in conclusion? Please, let's adhere to good hygiene practice. I'm talking to processors now. Then good agri practice, I'm talking to farmers now. Then product handling and exposure, also processors. Avoiding contamination with packaging material, also processors. And then quality testing, quality control and product testing, very, very important. I think I'll just stop so far. Give me the conclusion. Let me just... No, there's a conclusion. Organizations, he has not clapped for me, so that's why he has not. We are encouraged to self-regulate our practices. And this we can achieve through information we get from consultative meetings and meetings like this. Meetings like this and all others. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's give a round of applause to NAFDAC for a wonderful job. Thank you so much, sir. I think this session is one of the most important sessions. Some of the things that are making it impossible for us to tap into that market relates to what NAFDAC and SON have just informed us. These two gentlemen are here, and for people that want to actually benefit from the export market, I encourage you to have some time to discuss with them further. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now we are moving to the financial institutions. I don't know whether we have BOA in the house. Somebody from Bank of Agriculture? No. Do we have someone from Bank of Industry? Or Bank of Industry is in the house. Now, before I invite you to take the podium, maybe I give I give opportunity to two people. If you have a very burning question that you want to ask these presenters for this session, maybe we can have that before we move to the next session. I can see a hand here, one, and then we have one here. No, I took the first person there. And I need one person, preferably a woman, but if there's no woman, then I go to you. Oh, there's a woman. Okay, a man and a woman. Thank you. Please.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. My question goes to SON. I know from what you've presented now, you are expected to do monitoring. And you've had 15 years working on one standard. So my question is, today you have two people that have complained about your standard, and you've been doing monitoring. How has your result that you've gotten in the past 15 years tallied with the questions that have been raised here by Nestle and Sotri? And then what are you intending to do? Are you going to sit back and wait for these people to raise a complaint before you act on a standard that is affecting everybody? Or you take the bull by the horn?
Thank you. We'll take the second question, then I come back to you. I think we have two people only.
Thank you very much. My question relates to the last speaker, what he has said. SON, I feel, as a federal parastater under a ministry, must have regulations in which some of these standards will be reviewed every 5 years, 3 years, 7 years. There must be a standard, not to wait and sit back till we start complaining. I think this is wrong administration. Well, that's my judgment, my own side of the story. Two, we expect that SONs to enforce regulations. Now, listen. SON come to you, okay, this is okay. But sometimes people don't follow. Look at the issue of available in the market. Flour maize, they go out, or some other organizations like that, they take Elubo and the rest back into their store, and that's the end. They continue to import other things to manufacture, to produce wheat flour. What is Standard Organization doing to enforce that these people must keep to the regulations? And lastly, I'm not talking too much, this enforcement, you are talking about moisture content, this content and God content. How often do you circulate these things to the manufacturers so that they know? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you can answer the two now.
It's okay. Let me. Once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, there are some issues raised, concerning the parameter mentioned by Nestle. I want to inform you that the standard, has been reviewed. We have a new standard now, but only that it has not been made public. But a new standard, I was discussing with Dr. Sani during the lunch, and we discussed about it. He was part of the committee, or the technical committee that raised the new standard. And also, I want to also make it known to you that there must be a reason to review standard. You don't just say because this standard has been drafted 2 years ago, then you just said you want to review it. No, there must be a reason to review a standard. If there's no reason, because to review a standard, you do a draft and circulate it among the stakeholders. SON does not, I mentioned this thing earlier, SON does not just sit down in its office and just write a standard. No, that's not how to write a standard. When you want to review a standard, first there must be a reason for the review of that standard. Just as Nestle have observed a particular parameter that they think it needs to be reviewed, they will make it known to SON. A technical secretary will be appointed. He will collect information, about the standard and circulate it to all the stakeholders for comment. Then he will collect the different comments from the stakeholders, and a technical committee meeting will be organized where all the stakeholders will come together and look at those comments made by different stakeholders, debate on it until a consensus is reached, which is acceptable to all the stakeholders. Because a particular parameter that is favorable to me may not be favorable to another person, and we will not review standard based on just one person's view, because that person may be. I could remember I was the technical standard for cocoa press cake. When we had the technical committee meeting, we had a very thorough argument, from different stakeholders concerning a particular parameter until a consensus was reached. Because you cannot just take the view of only one manufacturer and then impose it on others. Because when a standard, is approved, it becomes a national standard. Everybody must abide by that standard. So it is something that must be acceptable to all. Like the new parameter, raised by Nestle, SON will look at it, and then a draft will be made to all the stakeholders. And then a TC will be called. Everybody will come and look at it. If that, observation is acceptable to all, then it will now be adopted as a national standard. And also, that has also covered the second question concerning the review of standard, where Madam is suggesting that standards should be reviewed every 2 years or every 3 years. I think I've cleared that.
Thank you so much.
And also on the issue of enforcement and enforcement of regulation, as when do carry out enforcement, we have what we call the conformity assessment program, through which our staff go around the factories, and ascertain what they are producing. And if your product conforms to the requirement of the standard, you are given the MANCAP certificate. And also the parameters in the standard. Just as I said, we look at every parameter and ensure that, if there is a change in particular parameter, it is acceptable to all the stakeholders before it is adopted as, a change in the standard.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause to SON and all the people that asked the question. I think we have the opportunity to discuss with him on the sidelines after the meeting. Let me invite colleagues from BOI, Bank of Industry, to make his presentation. Please, 10 minutes, and then we move to the other sessions. Thank you so much. Please, let's encourage him with a round of applause as he takes the podium.
Hello. Yeah. I stand by the existing protocol. And good evening, all. Yeah, I'm Ahmed Ibrahim Kagara from the Bank of Industry. I'm given 10 minutes, so let me quickly rush since there is no much time. Of course, when banks are in the midst of entrepreneurs, sometimes we are friends, sometimes we are enemies. And that is how the hazard of the job, and again, we have to understand each other. Because you are coming from one point, we are coming from another point of view. Fortunately, or unfortunately, that is why we have challenge. I cannot be in my office, you come, you want to borrow money, I gave you money, and I lost the money and be happy with you. I see you as my enemy because it's a threat for the existence of the bank. It's a threat for our employment. It's a threat for everybody. Every system, every organization must be sustainable. You must have guaranteed sustainability. So when money goes out and it didn't come back, it's a threat. It means that bank will be counting its days. So we have to understand ourselves. In this hall, I'm happy I've met with very good customers here of our bank. They know me, I know them. We will not mention names. I've also seen some delinquent customers here. They know me, I know them. We will not mention our names, and we continue. So I will definitely skip some slides for the purpose of time. In fact, when I saw how the MC was given 10 minutes, I was trying to just jot what I need to say here and quickly go. But for the purpose of organized presentation, let me use the screen so that people can be seeing what I'm talking about. The earlier slides are just introductory. Looking at the forum, I decided not to waste time in giving background, history relevant of the need of agriculture, the importance of cassava. It's too small for this class. Because this class, from what I saw, maybe I'm not competent to talk about cassava. So I'm only going to talk on the point of view of banking and lending. So because I don't know how we plant it, I don't know how you harvest it. I can merely just review your proposals, and then make use of it. When I was coming for this presentation, I drew this, we came up with this table. These are just table that is showing the various derivatives of cassava. And I have met with people here who are into different level of operation here. When Yemisi was talking, we know ourselves, and I think she's competent to speak on the topic she spoke, the success factors. We have done some projects, we have failed in some places, we know why we failed, and I learned, in fact, failure is an experience. We have failed in some projects, and those projects have given us experience, and that guided us for the subsequent businesses we have met in different occasions. This is one of the intervention funds that also was given to Bank of Industry by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to intervene in the cassava value chain, excluding farming. Because farming is mainly for the Bank of Agriculture. We don't dabble into their activities. Ours is value addition. The moment the cassava is harvested, anything you do after the harvest, Bank of Industry is involved. So we are giving some fund, about 3.5 billion approximately, which is being implemented. We have disbursed most part of it. And we are also learning. We have also learned from the scheme. The lender and the beneficiaries, we have both learned, and we are perfecting our mistakes, and we are moving forward. I just decided to mention this as one of the examples. Beyond this fund, the 3.5 billion, BOI has independent fund. Without this fund, we have been lending. With it, we are lending, and after it, we will continue to lend. So we have other lines. When you approach us, we determine which fund is suitable for you. We give you, we fix you on the funding that applies to you. While I was coming, I checked into our record to determine what equipments have we really funded in the bank in this sector. And I discovered that we have funded a couple of equipments for different level of operation. For those doing gari, they will fund themselves here. Those doing starch, those doing syrups, peelers, shredders, hammer mills, pressers, fleshers, all these chillers, boilers, fryers, depending on where oven, mixers, dividers, and co. Depending on the field and the area you are operating. I pick up these items from the various invoices that we have funded. I now said, okay, based on this scheme that we have done, what are the lessons that we have learned? We have also learned from our interaction from the beneficiaries and from our visit and from what we saw on ground. Some of them were saying the equipment, some of them said the equipment were imposed on them because when we started the scheme, we were given lists of those who will provide the machineries for that purpose. Some of them were saying they would have been given the chance to go and look for equipment where they so wish to buy, instead of saying they must buy from ABC. We have learned that from them. Some of them are also, some of them have just poor attitude, which I don't want to dwell much. In the presentation, we are asked to talk forward. We should say less about what has happened. If we begin to discuss what has happened, we will be here till tomorrow morning, we will not end. So let's move forward. Then some of the challenges in the cassava sector, which we identified, we summarize them into government policies. We have also learned that in terms of pricing, because one of the major things that the high quality cassava flour producers are telling us, and we have seen in the market, was that their cost of production, at the end of the day, the price they have, the off-takers are not ready to take it at that price. So that becomes a constraint for them. So we're moving forward. We're looking at how cost of production will be reduced. Because if you reduce your cost of production, it will also give you the ability to have a good price for your off-takers. We don't know whether we don't know how this claim, because even the off-takers, we have also understand that somebody spoke here on the stage that there are a lot of conspiracy in it. I don't want to go into that before I receive call from somewhere. Then we talk about opportunities. Of course, the opportunities in a forum like this, I cannot be talking about the opportunities there. Everybody knows the opportunities in the cassava. It's a product that we so much like. It's in top priority because it has no waste. It is just like the palm fruit. No waste. A to Z is money. A to Z of cassava is money. So it's a good product that any banker and any bank would like to associate itself and fund it because anything of it is money. Of course, there is potential for export, which we all know that it can be exported. And it will also help the economy in import substitution and what have you. The next slide is about assessing BOI facility. Like I said, beyond this fund, you can apply to BOI for financial assistance to establish any form of project that involve processing of cassava and any other products. We'll be interested to participate in that. Agro-allied industry is #1 in our priority in the bank because of its multiplier benefit, because of its value addition from the farmer to the processor. And there are different, it's a long chain of value chain in it. So these are some of the requirements. We finance both small, medium, and large. We also finance startup, we finance expansion, we finance diversification, rehabilitation, any form of project, so long as it's convincing. Because you as an entrepreneur, you must do your homework, and you must convince your banker to put his own money. If you are coming to marry someone, you have to convince him. Right? So these are some of the requirements. Application, if you are already on ground, of course, we want to know how well you have been doing. And then feasibility studies, meaning that, yes, you know where you are coming from and you know where you are going. And then quotation, you would have also established where you are going to get those technology. And of course, you have to tell us how our money is being secured. Because Central Bank of Nigeria will not allow us to lend without cover. There has to be a cover. And the more you ask from the bank, the more the bank will ask from you. If you ask for less, I ask for less from you, depending on the project you have on ground. We don't have definite tenure. Tenure depends on the nature of the project. Our interest rate cannot be more than 10%. It can only be below. In this occasion, I also want to use this privilege to appreciate IITA. They are our partners. ADB is our partners. FIRO is our partners. And you are our partners. Everybody here is a partner to the Bank of Industry. We are ready to engage in any form of partnership towards the development of the industrial sector of Nigeria. We have a number of partnerships and we are willing to go for many more, so long as it is towards industrialization and economic growth of the nation. We associate ourselves with this forum any day, anytime, anywhere. Please call on Bank of Industry. We are responsive. We are so determined. We work with passion. We have commitment. Nigeria must move forward. Nobody will do it for us but ourselves. So please, 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 let's put our house together. We are ready. We are willing. Let's get the right technology. One of the things I have observed from my experience in dealing with this particular sector, I've been wondering whether we are getting, I'm not too sure whether we have got the right technology. Because I have a number of them. Some of them, the machine we have funded for doing A, they have to convert it to doing B. Right from there, you know that there's a problem.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much for the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause to him. I know that the next session we are going to look at technologies that we are going to talk about. But I know that a meeting like this, when we have people from the financial sector, it is important for people to also interact with them. So I will give two people the opportunity to raise if there's any burning question, or we can wait at the end of the innovations. Dr. Abbas has raised his hand, and then I'm looking for a woman, but if there's no woman, then you. Okay. You can use that.
Thank you very much. BOI, are you still in the room? Yeah, I think the last comments that you made are so critical to Cassava Compact. For us, we say technology matters, scale matters, partnership matters. You have requested for partnership. There's something I noticed in your presentation, and you stressed it so well, that it appears that some equipment, when they get to the users, they don't seem to perform the way they are supposed to perform. This is what is really killing most of the processing factories. I am suggesting, this is a proposal, if it's acceptable, we will put in the communique. Cassava Compact would like to partner with you, BOI, to provide technical assistance when you are financing entrepreneurs to buy equipment. We will be there to help the entrepreneurs check to be sure that the equipment will do what the equipment supplier says it will do. So in terms of moving forward, Cassava Compact would get back to you, we will write an MOU so that we begin to provide that assistance. Cassava Compact provides technical assistance to nations, not just in terms of technologies, but even in terms of developing loan programs that they get from the African Development Bank. And we provide knowledge. So this is part of it. That is the reason why we came. So that is the action that Dr. Bokanga was talking about in the morning. Number 2, SON. SON, the letter you requested, we will write. We'll write that letter. I hope you are still there. We'll write the letter.
We just had some discussion with Dr. Sani. Sorry. Yeah, he is the chairman of the technical committee meeting. So what we discuss with him now is that particular parameter, that total aerobic count, which is written 10,000 in this standard, will be corrected in the new standard, which is about to come out. He will speak with the director of standards, and it will be corrected. So there will be no need, calling the TC, or since he is the chairman of the technical committee meeting, so that it has easily be taken care of. Very soon. No. It's just awaiting council approval. Once it is approved, that is all. It can be, maybe in the next one.
Okay. Thank you very much. That is a major factor for the industry to move forward, right? If I got it right. That's the only parameter that is making everyone unable to sell to Nestle and the rest of them. Is that correct? So we take it. This will be in the communique as well. Thank you very much.
Okay,
we are listening. We will be picking the issues as we go.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abbas.
My question goes directly to BOI. When he was giving his lectures, my question is directly on the requirements for loan. I'm speaking from experience. Maybe my experience will give a room to my question. As a young man, I was coming up, and Obasanjo was eating cassava on the cassava bread on the television. So I thought that that thing has money in it. I sold all the Siennas that were running Lagos for me. I went and planted cassava up to 15 hectares. I brought the stems from Ibadan and many other places, this yellow pro vitamin A cassava. At the end of the day, there was no market for me in the market. When I asked people who have industries to move this cassava to their factories, they were giving me 15,000 per ton. And that is where another question comes in. Before you move that thing from my state to where the factory is, there are more than 50 checkpoints, this produce. You will be paying them every place 8,000, some places 10,000, these revenue collectors. So there was nothing I can do. So I rushed to the bank. When I went there, as a young man without any property, either in Abuja or anywhere, the collateral issue came in. So my question to him is this. How can young men like us who are coming up be able to access loan in your bank when your collateral is blocking us? Thank you, sir.
Yeah. If there is anything I like most, it's finding myself in a forum like this. You know, for every question, there must be an answer, and valid answer. Yeah, like I said during my presentation, what we ask as collateral or as coverage for loan, it depends on what you also ask from the bank. If you come to me with a request of 10 million below, I know who you are. I know who you are when you come to borrow 10 million. If this Oga comes to say, I know this Oga, if he's coming to my office, he's come for 500 million. Well, I have seen customers here that I gave 500 million here. I have seen some of them. We know what to ask from them. I've also seen customers who have asked for 6 million, 10 million. Their requirement is different, such that it doesn't require landed property, C of 1. Because I cannot go to any bank to borrow 10 million. I should ask for something more because I have assets to cover into my business. So the person who will come for 10 million below will already know his class, that this is a growing entrepreneur. We even have loan of 2 million, 5 million. We give corpus. NYC students, NYC graduates are collecting facility from BOI. We are so dynamic such that we look at the economy, we look at the sector, and want to carry everybody along. We don't want anybody that will look at BOI and say, this is an institution that they don't have my interest. I don't have stake there. We have categorized our lending to different level of people. If an NYSC graduate can access loan from BOI, we also have another facility for just so long as you are graduate. You can use your certificate, we collateralize. We use the NYC certificate to collateralize the for the NYC 2 million maximum, because we want them to start small. For every business, you must start small and grow over it, because they are just coming out from the university to learn. And we are proud of that product. In fact, recently we made a presentation to management that we should zero interest for them. Because of the demonstration of commitment and passion which they have done, we remove the interest. So it's zero interest for those youth. For any graduate who will say, I don't want to go and look for a job. I want to determine my own destiny in my own hand. I want to live my own. That shows an element of seriousness in that person. He said, keep the certificate, give me money, I will find my level. And they are doing it, and we are proud of them. So if you ask for 10 million above, yes, we'll ask you for one phone above. There are even some collateral that we collect, we may not perfect. Some will, so it's according to what you ask from us. We give you 10 billion, 20 billion, I processed 25 billion recently. And we know what we requested from that person. So come to us, we are ready, if you are ready. The fact of the matter is that we want committed, dedicated, people who have passion, not when you see threat in the business you run and say, after all, it's the bank money. So that is why we want your commitment. If you are committed, if you see somebody playing with a job in the factory, you fire him. But if you have no commitment, say, after all, don't mind them. Whether the thing works or it doesn't work, what do I have? So collateral is just a demonstration that I am ready. I have somebody, sir, when I was sometime in the northeast, in Bauchi, somebody came. He said he wants, is it 500 million he wanted? I said, okay, how do you want to secure it? He brought some properties from Abuja. He gave me some in Bauchi, some in Kano. He brought the CFOs, spread them on my table. I said, take anyone you want. If you want to take or carry all, just give me the phone. I know what I want to do. So that's not big deal. Collateral, there must be. In fact, even those guys that we ask them for guarantors, if they make noise, I say, okay, if nobody can stand for you, why should the bank believe you? Somebody must stand for you to show that you are somebody that we can trust with money. Money is a scarce resource. You have to guard it jealously.
All right. I think there will be more interactions with BOI at the end of the meeting. Now we are going to the next session, the last session, and we are going to listen to technology generators, some of the technologies that we have. And I'd like to invite the first presenter, Mr. Turayo Alabi from IITA, who will be speaking to us on GIS-based strategies for locating cassava processing centers. A round of applause to him, please. Please keep it to 10 minutes because we want to close on time.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to kind of provide a solution. Since morning, we've been talking about problem of transportation, the transport costs, and how that affect our cassava processing value chain. We did a study about 3 years ago, and we tried to quantify what would be the effect of transports, our bad road system on cassava value chain. That's what I am trying to present here. Give me the next. Well, it has been said and oversaid already that cassava is an important crop, food security crop. And we know that it's no longer a peasant crop. Now it's an industrial crop. We also know that even though it's very rugged, it has ability to survive in very poor soil. Yet we are aware of the productivity that is very low in Africa compared to other regions of the world where we have over 20 tons per hectare. Profitability of cassava also have been influenced by so many factors, such as accessibility to markets and particularly road infrastructure. We also are aware of the high moisture content of cassava, which is about 70%. And that means that we need efficient transportation system to get them to the factory so we don't lose quality. Road transport is the most dominant transport system in cassava processing industry. And therefore, we did some special analytical modeling to see how we can optimize siting of our cassava processing center so as to minimize losses. So this study was carried out in 2015-2016 under the HQCF projects funded by IFAD and implemented by IITA. And the aim was to evaluate how roads infrastructure affect cassava value chain. And we did socioeconomic interview for about 500 farmers and about 105 small-scale cassava processors. We actually focused on 4 states with a total road length of about 23,000 kilometers. And then we covered, as our sample survey, we covered about 5,000 kilometers sampling to see the condition of the roads. Here are some of the highlights that we find in the study area. The major road lengths, as I've just said, or the national is about, I'm talking of good road, that is a tarmac road. We have about 58,000 and all that. But look at the others, the side here. the road density that is available in the study states, and actually I must tell you that this study state, Ekiti-Kwara, Ogun and Oyo, they are one of the most developed states in terms of road infrastructure. Yet, the road density that is available there, even though mostly above national average, yet it's still below the world average, which is at 944 kilometers per 1,000 kilometers. Now, that road density that we are talking about, which is 380 in our studies area, is still far less below what had been achieved in India by the year 1950. In India, it was around 718 kilometers per 1,000 kilometers, even as at 1950. So we are very far below. And then, coupled with the fact that the roads are still bad. So let's move on to the next. So we have some examples of rural road that we visited during the study. And even coincidentally today, in Punch, there's an article talking about abandoned road projects in all our states all around. There, I took that something bad road constitute huge cost to manufacturing operations. Move on, please. So these are some of the highlights we find from the assessment of roads transportation costs in the study area. We found that rural roads have been badly affected by rainfall. In fact, when we look at dry season compared to the wet season, we found out that most of our roads during the wet season are completely bad in the rural area. And the transportation costs that we found increased from between 30 to 46% from dry to wet season. That tells you the difficulty of sourcing raw material during the wet season. Let's move on. So what we find is, some of them I've mentioned, the high cost of transport and poor roads network are a major hindrance in our cassava value chain industry, and that tarmac road, what we call all-season road, are uncommon in most of the production area for our cassava production. So there is also there is a need to do some modeling to be able to kind of select when we are planning our industrial setup. Move on to the next one. So making agro-processing investment in the rural urban area required, there must be a good knowledge of production density. That is, where you want to site your industry, do you have enough cassava? Others have said it, but it's important that we look at it from the approach of science. I mean, we quantify these things. And that's what we try to do in this study. Then move on to the next one because of my time. Here is, nowadays, it is possible to quantify all over the country and even all over Africa what is the available cassava in any local government, in any point, in any part. This is a data that kind of broke cassava production data that we had from the Ministry of Agriculture into 1 kilometer grid that you can say, in this area, I'm sure I can get 5 to 10 tons of cassava, even in an area of 1 kilometer. So the blue deep down area are places where cassava production per kilometer are very high, greater than 100 tons per kilometer. So, I mean, that is possible. And from there, an industrial person can make his analysis using GIS and modeling approach to know what is available already for him. Let's move on. So right from there, we also look at, I mean, using that cassava map that we had, we can look at how much of the cassava is within 2 kilometers of a tarmac road, which is near, as easily accessible, which are within 5 to 10 kilometers, I mean 5 to 10 kilometers, and then above 10 kilometers. we found that in our study area, mostly less than 50% of total cassava production are taking place in less than 2 kilometers from all-season TAAT road. That means that you have to go further into area where there are no good roads to get your cassava raw material. Let's move to the next one. Here is a map of market accessibility, which indicates how fast you can bring your cassava to a processing center. We have already known that most processing centers site their something on big towns. So in this modeling, we use a town of greater than 100,000 people as our test case. Move on to the next one. And then from there, with combination with the market access, cost of transport, we now produce an optimal catchment area for each processing centers. That's the AADL was talking about that in the morning, that you need to site your cassava in a catchment area, optimal catchment area. That can be done with science, with geographic information system. And that's what we have done. Move on to the next one. Here we were able to look at what is the costs of moving cassava from one point to the other per kilometer in $1 cost of transport to the processing center in US dollar per ton per kilometer. Area where you have green are cheaper to move your cassava to those industry. Let's go to the next one. We did an analysis from here, from the seismic process center that we use. If you look at the one I highlighted because of time, you will see that at the region of Eltis Farm, which is one of the processing centers we use, there are about 225,000 tons of cassava that is available to them per year. And the average costs of bringing a ton of cassava to this factory is 1.6. But when you go to Ola area, you have up to 617,000. And then the average cost of bringing cassava to that factory is 3.7. That means the cost of bringing cassava, even though cassava is much in Ola area, the cost of transport is much higher. And that will affect the profitability at that area. If you have done such analysis, you know how to arrange, where you site your industry. Go to the next slide. I'm just at the conclusions now. So what I've said is in the area where we have studied, we have a great potential for agricultural development, but the economic potential has been limited by poor state of our road system. Therefore, there must be priority to development of rural road and all that. In fact, we have examples of China,
Thank
India,
you so much,
Mr.
Labi.
Industrialize their something in the last. So therefore, in conclusion, geographic information system can help in solving some of the problem of getting our raw material in the best possible way to maximize our profits. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to him. I think this is a very important information for investors. We have seen a lot of mistakes of factories being cited where the raw materials were transported for several thousands of kilometers, and at the end of the day, no break even in all of this. Thank you so much, Alabi, for this presentation, and I'm sure that several people will be meeting you shortly after to discuss more in detail. The next presentation will be by Lava Kumar and Adebayo Abbas. Dr. Abbas, are you presenting? Dr. Abbas, are you the one presenting? Or who is Lava Kumar? Or we are skipping that? Or we are skipping. So Professor Friday will be speaking to us on weed control. Some of the findings that we have actually seen and how weed control can help you double your yield and productivity. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Godwin. Please, I don't want to bat you. Permit me to stand here.
Okay.
All right. Next slide. We all know that weeds constitute a major bottleneck in cassava production, and this is particularly true because cassava is a slow starter. So within 2 to 3 weeks after planting, you must have good weed control, and when the cassava is also tuberizing. We know that poor weed control, or if you don't control at all, you lose a lot of your yield. Currently, the major method of weed control is hand weeding, even though herbicide use is on the increase. That is labor intensive and not adequate. Next. I have this slide here to show you what can happen if you don't control the weeds well. This photo here has cassava under it, and it's been weeded once. This other one, the woman is struggling to remove the weeds. Next. Over 5 years in a funded project and working with various partners, we looked at various factors that we can use to control weeds adequately. We have looked at agronomic factors. Here we looked at tillage, variety, plant density, whether to fertilize or not. We looked at mechanical weeding tools. Then we screened a lot of herbicides. In fact, when we started, we had 41 herbicides, which we narrowed down to 8 after 5 years. Integrating all that, we went on farm to look at how these things will perform. We worked in 4 states, in 397 sites, working with various partners, 2 universities, National Root Crop Research Institute, FUNAB, UAM in Makurdi, the chemical companies themselves. At the end of it all, next slide, we developed a toolkit. And this toolkit is what we call the 6 steps to cassava weed management. How does it work? It starts with good land selection. Number 2, you have to get rid of the original vegetation, especially if it has perennials. We're using glyphosate. We know the controversies surrounding glyphosate. We are looking at that. We're looking at alternatives. You wait for a while after applying the herbicides. Then you prepare your land, tillage, and plow. We have modified this to include cost. You have to decide whether to till or not, looking at the cost of operation. After you have done that, the next thing is to plant, and you put your pre-emergent herbicides, and then make sure that your plant stand is adequate. There is a standard spacing. We are looking at 12,500 plants per hectare. And there is the last batch of weed control when your weeds have reached 30% weed infestation after the initial application of the pre-emergence. This is what we are demonstrating in the country and outside the country, in Tanzania, in Zambia, and possibly in Uganda. Next. Next. The 6 steps is in this format. If you look at your folder, you will see a sample. The chemical companies themselves are already distributing it. I know that Syngenta is doing that, Bayer is doing that, and UPL is doing that. They are printing this and inserting this in their product as they deliver to the agro dealers. Next. Using the 6 steps, this is the type of result we have obtained. What you see here is an average coming from 397 sites. If you look here, you see where we have combined all the herbicide treatment. You see where we have done the best weeding method, that is weeding at 4, 8, and 12 weeks at the right time. You can see that if you use the herbicide, you are going to increase your yield by 27%. The difference between this and this is that labor really involved in removing the weeds. Next. We did some economic analysis. We discovered that if you use the herbicide, a combination of pre and post, you will increase your profit by 83%. You would notice that farmers are losing money by doing the usual thing they do with holes. Next. Next. Keep going. Next, 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 next. We are scaling out this, the 6 steps, and this is the scaling model we are using. We're using demos. We're meeting with government. We are doing partnership. Next. And we are using multimedia. Next. If you come to demos, these are the things we are doing, farmer field days, meeting with agro dealers. If you come to government, we are working with state government, FMAD. If you come to radio, ICT, we are using radio, social media, and the television. I will dwell more on this because we are working with TAAT. Next. The former president is one of those that is helping us to popularize the 6 steps. We're also working with him. Next. Like I mentioned, we're working with TAAT. We're setting up demos in various states in Nigeria. We are doing this in Tanzania. We are using the 6 steps in Zambia. We are currently going to Uganda with the 6 steps. Next. This is a slide I want you to look at. This is a TAAT field. This is where we have used the 6 steps. This is where the farmer is allowed to do what he's doing. And these fields were planted the same day. The people who did this work, they're here, Mr. Toye and Godwin. You could see the difference in plant growth. Next. We are not only doing demos, we are training. Via TAAT, we're training, this is a TOT, we're training those that will go and train the other farmers. We are showing them how to calibrate using a tool which we have developed. It's called the herbicide calculator. That helps to remove excessive use of herbicide. Next. That's the training. Next. Okay, that's the conclusion. What I want to say here is, if you integrate good agricultural practice, it means you are doing the right agronomy, you are using the herbicides the way it should be used, you will certainly double the current national yield average, which is reported, this is FAO 2018, 9.1 tons per hectare. You will certainly reach 25 tons per hectare. Thank you very much.
A round of applause again to Professor Friday. Thank you so much for that presentation on the weed management, which is now being integrated into the good agricultural technology practices of TAAT. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'd like to invite the next presenter, Dr. Richardson Okechukwu, to give a presentation on mechanization options for profitable cassava cultivation. Please, Doc, You have 10 minutes for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll be talking on mechanization. Next slide. Most of what we have been saying today falls under this value chain. And the solution to all the challenges in terms of price, in terms of supply, in terms of quality, all happens at the production part. And if we can address the needs of the farmers and the challenges with the production component, everything, all the problems we have will be solved. And one key thing to solving that is to look at this issue of mechanization. And the things I will talk to you about mechanization cuts across whether it is for large-scale farmer or for a small-scale farmer. We can always discuss later and find the one that fits to your scale. Next slide. So these are the basic steps in cassava production. You go from the land acquisition, land clearing and development. You get into plowing, harrowing, first harrow or second harrow, depending on how your soil is. You get into ridging if you're going to do manual planting and you're not intercropping. You get into cassava stem production, preparation, mechanical planting if you're going to do large-scale farming, fertilizer application, herbicide spraying, issue of farm supervision is very key, and security. You get into mechanical harvesting, either full mechanical or semi-manual harvesting, and transportation. These are the basic steps in doing the producing the roots. So we'll look at the machines that apply to these various stages as we go. Next slide. So land acquisition. One key problem most farmers have is that they don't know the exact size of their croppable land. They know their total land, but not knowing the croppable land. And all the inputs that you use in that land should be calculated based on the croppable land. Otherwise, you'll be wasting a lot of money, or you buy inputs that you don't know. Vegetation also is very important, the type of land you have and how it should be. Your soil type also matters, and also we determine the type of machinery that will get into that type of farm. So soil type is important, and we always advise you, if you're going to do anything more than 5 hectares, do some form of soil analysis, at least to know your organic matter, your N, your P, your K, and your pH. This will help you in soil management that we follow as you continue to crop. You need to be conversant with your community, that where you set up these farms. Most farms that are bigger than 5 hectares, it's always very difficult to go around it every time. So if you are not very good with the community that you work in, you have challenges of theft, you have challenges of fire, you have challenges with herdsmen and so on. Next. So under land development, this is where you really open up the land. I'm not pushing for more deforestation, but a lot of the 3 million hectares that is cropped in Nigeria, many of them are small side, and they're all having a lot of stumps in those lands. And so you can't really move in large-scale mechanization by using tractor in all operations that are there. So we always get to have this aspect. If you're going to do all those big hectares, you had sort of talking about 10,000 hectares, 5,000 hectares, then this kind of machinery has to come to play. Time and how and when you use it must have to be compatible with the soil type that is there, and we like to suggest that you do this mostly in dry season. And the way you operate the machines for land development also is different when you're talking about agriculture. So in land development, you can apply the drones to see how your land is, and you see some of the pictures the GIS have said. There's a lot of GIS you can do to know how that land can be developed. We need bulldozers, we need excavators, you need land terracers, because most lands are not flat, and you have to cut it properly and lay out the blocks to have efficient, sustainable use of the land. Motor graders are also applicable, and chainsaws are needed because there are a lot of trees or stumps that need to be chopped off and moved out of the land. Next slide. You get into the land tillage, the equipment that applied there has to do with the tractors. You know, so you have the plow, the harrows, the ridgers, the mechanical hoes. When you do mechanical planting, you need a mechanical hoe to get your ridges properly done. And if you are a smaller size player, you can make use of the power tillers that also have the following implements. Next slide. In terms of application of herbicides, the knapsacks are very common, but we also have the boom sprayers, which many people don't know how to use for now, but if you're a large-scale farmer, definitely you need a boom sprayer. And then we have the motorized weeders. The key thing here is not just having the equipment, but knowing how to calibrate it. Most of our knapsack operators don't know how to calibrate the machine and the kit. And the kit training has to go in here because that is what leads to other contamination that some people have mentioned here. Next slide. In terms of planting, you have the cassava planters, you have the cassava harvesters. There are also some root lifters that are also applicable. Next slide. Other equipment that are also applicable are trucks. We need trucks to move a lot of things. We need the trailers, the GPS for measuring the land and so on. And I mentioned the drone. These are new technologies that are there. Now, compare this with the manual. This is in terms of, you see the difference. What you can do in 1 hectare with 3 persons, you need 12 people doing 1 hectare of just planting. Next slide. From here, they've shown us that with mechanization, you can actually drop your cost of production by 41%, to reduce the cost of that. Next slide. And I took this slide for Joseph, who has shown that once you have mechanization, you're going to have higher productivity. And with higher productivity, definitely there's going to be more income and there'll be more savings. And you can buy more machines. And when you buy more machines, there will be more requests for machines. People will be selling more machines and you get lower cost of mechanization, and that will drop down the price. If we can bring down the cost of production, then processors will not have problem in buying the volumes of cassava that they want. Next. So the challenges that are there presently for Nigerian cassava mechanization includes the farm size, the land tenure. Most people rent land per year. It doesn't help. Environmental compliance, there are issues that have to do with environment for what machine you can do. There are also issues of land development. Many people cannot afford those dozers and so to open up or shredders to remove the stump. They need support for that. There is also this issue of non-availability of these machines to rent at the local level, at the local communities. The cost of the machines are also prohibitive in some areas. To plow, do one operation, plow 1 hectare for one operation, you'll be paying as much as 30,000 naira or 15,000. Many can't afford that, so they try to cut corners. There are few service providers who have these machines when you need it and the type you need for your soil. And you also have these operators that are not trained to use these machines. There is no training school where they teach tractor operator that is actually that functioning, having machines and so on for training. There is a lot of also corrupt practices by machine operators that frustrate the situation. Next. And then looking at the environment, when you use these machines, we must not forget that you have to watch out the issues of erosion, leaching, pollution, deforestation, loss in soil fertility, evaporation, and also the ecosystem. So it requires a complete knowledge in setting up a proper farm for sustainable production. Next. And so we'll have all these type of training modules that pertaining to this topic that we do provide to farms and people to learn and know how to make best use of machines. Next. For my conclusion, so mechanization is key to cost reduction. It's very attractive to the youth, removes drudgery. Entrepreneurial skill is essential. It's not everything you use machine, but the machine you apply should make good for your business. So anybody running it must have a good business and financial skill. When government support is actually needed in land development issues, and more private sector are needed to provide service of rental. Next. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Richardson. A round of applause to him. We have 2 2 or 3 more presentations to go. The first that I'm going to call is on flash dryers in Nigeria, efficiency and profitability. And then the youth will come. 10 minutes, please. Let's keep to time so that we can close on time. So I invite Mr. S. Adegbiti to make the first presentation. I think 2 of them are going to make the presentation. Your time starts now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Adegbiti by name. Presenting on flash dryer in Nigeria, efficiency and profitability measures. Actually, we are 2 that are making these presentations. It's a colleague from TAAT in Colombia. So, flash drying technologies are needed at small scale and optimized cost. But the operating condition of the operating condition of the present drying system are suboptimal, which result into high cost of productions. And actually, there are 2 factors that are majorly affecting the cost of productions of some of the cassava products. The first one is the raw material, which account for about 50 to about 90%, as well as the cost of drying, which is about 12%. For the cost of raw material, that has been solutions are already been provided to that, like the proximity of the factory to the source of raw material. Then also the advent of this mobile cassava processing plant will also have some positive impact on that. But for the drying aspect, so we are trying to provide about 2 solutions. I'm handling one aspect, while my colleague is also handling the other aspect of the solution. So drying, which is one of the essential unit operations involved the processing of some of the cassava product, has been identified as the most energy demanding within the process. Hence, its control is very crucial in order to ensure that the product produced is of high quality. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So next slide. Next. So just continue because I have just about 5 minutes for the presentations. So through the presenter initiative on cassava, a team was constituted which comprised of experts across the research institutions, academics, and industry. And this team developed a well-efficient flash drying system, and which lead to the evolutions of various models of cassava flash drying system. So next slide, please. So next slide. So, and please go back, please. So, and the chart there is just showing the distributions of the SMEs across the country where flash dryers are installed for production. But today, a reasonable number among these processing centers have actually stopped productions due to one reason or the other. And one of the reasons is that the high cost of productions, which I've earlier addressed. So now, next slide. So we carry out an evaluation studies of some model of flash dryer in Nigeria, about 4 model of flash dryer to be precise. And what we find out is that we discovered that the drying performance of this model of dryer could actually be improved upon, which we eventually did. Next slide. And from this, what we did was that we discovered that there is a correlation between the air velocities in the dryers and the length of the tube. You know, from for those of us that have the background and this science background, from this simple knowledge of physics, we know that velocity is the rate of displacement. So if the resident time of the product within the drying duct is about 2 seconds, and majority of those model of dryer that we evaluated, the length range from between 7 to about 13.5 meter in length. And we discovered that when you do that, to calculate the normal length, using the average velocity, average value of velocity about 10 meters per second, as indicated on the chart there, we expect about 20 meter length. But those length of those existing dryers are below that length. So therefore, we now discover that the only modification we can do is to find to modify those dryers based on minimum airflow. So, and that's exactly what we did. And from that, the energy efficiency increased, and the specific energy consumption are reduced, because this have a direct impact on the production cost. And the fuel consumption, and this also have effect on the fuel consumption. So the chart, the bar that we have, this red bar indicates these are the modified dryer. Those are the value we got for the modified dryer. While those bars in the blues, these are those dryer that we evaluated as it is. So when we modify it, these are the results we got, and we can compare. Because they are the energy efficiency.
You are going into the next person's presentation.
Better performance of the dryer. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Alejandro Taborda. I'm from Colombia. I work for TAAT, and I am working in a scaling project here in Africa, especially in DRC and Nigeria. The purpose of this scaling, I don't have much time for give you details, technical details of the project. So I will give you two principal points, two messages for you, especially for cassava processors, and instead for the fabricators of that kind of machine, the flash dryer technology. And the first message is the principal cause is in the energy use. The question that we want to answer is, can we make drivers at a small scale with same energy efficient as a large scales? Especially in countries as Nigeria, that the cost of the dryer, the energy consumption, is the second cost after the roots, fresh roots. So this is an important thing that you need to understand. The profit of your business when you use flash dryers is smaller than other countries as Thailand, Vietnam, even Colombia, the country I come from. Drying represents almost 70 and 80% of the energy used in this process. This is the interesting point. In the large scales, the big factories, the cost per 1 ton of cassava starch in USD is this amount, almost 30 USD per ton. But in the small scale, it's higher the cost. The reason is because it's not efficient. And this is the second message. We, the researchers from TAAT, here is a partner of TAAT, is joining us in this meeting, this important meeting. And TAAT in Colombia, we prepare a model for predict what is the particular characteristics of these flash dryer technologies for be efficient. And one important is the length of the pipe. In Nigeria, the average of the length of the pipe is 10-12 meters. For be efficient must be at least 20 meters, ideally 30 or 40 meters for be more efficient. This is a simple message, and obviously we need to improve other part of the process. For example, the heat exchanger, the partner part of the process. In 2014, we used a computer model for improve this, for trying to understand how works this process. And now we are trying to design. We finished the design, the construction of prototype, and we're testing in the last 2 years, validate that obviously this prototype is efficient. And in this moment, we are working in a scaling project, and this is the second message for you, the scaling a project that for transfer the technology to the cassava producers, cassava flour and cassava starch producers in Nigeria. So it's simple. If you want to have information, or if you want in your company, your factories, want to keep this information or know how to have a efficient scaling, efficient small scale flash dryers, so please, at the end of the meeting, maybe we can talk, or you can send me an email. And this is only two things that I want to share to you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to him. I think we have worked a lot on the cassava flash dryer, and having this presentation from colleagues from FIRO and TAAT is quite a cheery news based on the progress that they've made. We appreciate you so much for this. And I'm sure that most of us will be meeting you by the sidelines to have more knowledge about how to get some of these technologies here. Ladies and gentlemen, I will invite the agripreneurs, Olua Sheun. She's actually an IITA youth agripreneur. She graduated from the incubation, and she will be sharing some of her thoughts on youth mindset change for profitable cassava enterprises in cassava communities. Sheun, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ogidon. I know that the youth unemployment rate in Nigeria is, they see not to be an agriculturist, but the case changed when I joined the IITA Youth Agripreneur, which came up as mobilization of NYSC. So we joined then, and when we got to IITA, we were from different backgrounds. We have an historian, we have lawyer, and when we got into the training proper, we all have to change our mindset towards agriculture. We went through different kinds of training, both locally, internationally. We developed business plan, bankable business plan. And we have mentorship and coaching by IITA scientists, our fathers here, and some of them are not even here. And we can boldly say that to some extent, we can do at least, even not more than what they can do, we can do up to what we are expected to do. This is part of our training in Brazil. We were trained on all cassava value chain. So, under EIA, the cassava unit, we've been able to coordinate some projects. We were able to coordinate the youth, under the youth umbrella, high quality cassava flour project, which we did for 3 years, and we captured 4 states, which are mentioned there. And also we have part, for the high quality cassava flour project, we did it like coordinating youth in clusters. We first trained them, changed their mindset about what they wanted to do, and I can say we did it successfully for the 3 years. And the CTA project too, we were given parts of the project to cultivate cassava, and which we did, we cultivated it well. So for the cassava value chain under here, we have different value chain. We have maize group, cereals and legumes. We have fisheries and livestock. But for the youth that graduated under cassava, so I have F-Step, which I am F-Step. I have Fabs Agro Processing, a colleague of mine. She's there. She's into value addition. She's doing bread and all sorts of snacks with 5% cassava flour. And I also have Todam. I have Toda Farms. He's from South, so he's a colleague of mine too. He's here. He's into cassava production and root production too. So this is Fabs. So I'm going to talk personally about myself. I can say a success story of myself. After being trained, after being to different parts, seeing what it means, seeing the real core agribusiness in cassava production. After training people, and I see that there is something that I can come out of this. I started the business in 2016, but I registered it formally in 2018. What I do, I specialize on stem multiplication. I multiply breeder seed, I multiply foundation seed, and I multiply certified seed. and also doing root production. The vision is to become. I believe that we have old people in farming, and we want to take up from where they stop. So we want to be one of the leading farms, production and processing farms in Africa. So what are the problems we identified while doing this project with the youth and the farmers? We discovered that farmers have low access to good planting materials, which gives them low yield. Even when they plant, they will get low yield because they do not have access to good planting materials. And we discover with this, they have insufficient root supply to processors. And with this, processors, we know they were not able to do very well, which we've all had today. Now, we plan to give the opportunity to them by giving them good planting materials so that they will be able to supply premium cassava root to processor for cassava flour, starch, and the likes. So, what gives F-Step Cassava Enterprise advantage over every other farmer? We produce high-quality cassava materials, and I can say we produce our foundation seed from TAAT technology, which is semi-autotrophic hydroponics. This ensures freedom from diseases, and our farms are certified by National Agricultural Seed Council, and which I believe most farmers do not have that. We plan to expand to 150 hectares to go into processing proper when the funds arrive. Yes, I am going to say this. Youth, we've been saying youth, but it is easy for us to change their mindset. What do we have to change their mindset? We have been doing trainings to youth. As a personal business, we organize training. We've trained SOS. We have trained a lot of group. But what do we want to do to put them together? To some extent, IA has really tried for us. They, to some extent, help us financially. Though I started with my personal money, but I was helped by IA, which I am still growing with my personal money, and which I believe one day I will be like Niju Lucas, even if not more than Niju Lucas. So with what I have been doing, I'm able to sustain myself and my family, and I'm able to employ labor directly and indirectly. I'm able to reduce social crime by creating jobs for youth and women in my environment, which I have the farm. So far, I have planted 20 hectares mechanically, and in the next 2 months, I am going to harvest what I have planted. I plan to contribute to state and nation by paying my tax, which I have started because I have registered officially. So, with this, I want us to encourage youth to reduce unemployment rate, to change their mindset, and to set them up. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Sheun. Please, a round of applause to her. What Sheun has presented is not rhetorics. I was in the bush doing on-farm demonstration, and I met her doing her business, her farm. It is not rhetorics at all, and I'm sure that you are going to be the next Niju Lucas that we'll be talking about. Please, a round of applause to her again. Thank you so much. And I think I'd like to appreciate IITA Director General, who started a youth program and having people like this come out of that program. Ladies and gentlemen, the next presenter is going to be the convener of this meeting, Professor Latif Sani. A round of applause to him. I think he told me that his presentation is going to be more of a wrap-up. So, Prof, you have the floor. 10 minutes, please. If you can do it earlier, the better.
Do not tempt me. I can present under 5 minutes. You know that. So, what we have done so far is like wrapping up situation analysis of the cassava enterprises. I'm not taking too much time. And if you have seen it, to me, in Nigeria today, the most tradable business that we have is starch. Food grade starch. Nestle alone as a company is looking for about 5,000, and it could be 10,000 tons of starch. 12,000. And it has implication. If you look at sultry of 40 tons per day, in a year, how many thousand is that? That's almost that 12,000 for Nestle. Okay? Now, but if you look at Cadbury, Unilever, other players, the implication is that we need about 5 of sultry more as a country. That's what I'm trying to wrap up with you this evening. Investment cost to have that kind of a factory now is almost about 500 to 650 million naira. It depends. If you want to scale up, then you can go for 1 billion. Where will you get the source of the fund? CBN is there. There is a case, the Commercial Agricultural Credit Fund. You can access the loan there at 9%. The second product is ethanol. ADL is here, and I told you that the NOSAC group are also investing in ethanol. We have 1 or 2 other players in the country. But the market for ethanol is bigger than starch. So the only problem there is that the cost of the investment is also, we are talking of investment of 5 billion to 10 billion. ADL alone is almost that. So, and that is an investment that NMPC that started 10%. Mr. Bankole, I saw him the money. I'm not sure whether he's still here. Now, that's an ethanol expert in those days, and he came from US and he came this morning here. Now, NMPC, we were talking of promoting flexi cars as a nation, and there was supposed to be a 10% fuel policy. These are good documented policy statement that we have as a nation. It has implication on investors. But today, most of the investors that are coming on their own. But there is definitely a market for ethanol. High quality cassava flour is a pushed market, not nobody is looking for it other than everybody through policy, through government, and that was why it's the most bastardized product in this country. It moves up, it comes down, it moves up, and it's sleeping at present. If I become minister tomorrow, I assure you, you know, the following morning, all the flour millers will be here. That is the implication of HQCF. So it's not a good business as far as I'm concerned in this presentation. My presentation is starch and ethanol. Because of the African Trade Pact that the president just signed, I would say that traditional products, packaged gari, packaged fufu, are also exportable businesses now. You can take them from Nigeria to all other African countries. And that's just, and we have the products. We have the quality. All the players are here. Abi, am I correct? Some of your products are here. This is not fake. So Dewa is here, half hours, and we just put them so that they know that we are available to actually move on. Now, another product that we have tested now is liquid starch. And we produce these through high quality cassava flour. And this is another, we are looking for players that we can demonstrate it to so that you can take it forward. And I put some of the details of some selected factories, ADL, capacity that you need, Thai Farm. Now Thai Farm is no more Thai Farm, it's premium cassava products. They are producing HQCF and they are also producing packaged gari. In terms of projections of the sales of fresh fruits, we are looking at what happened in the next 5-10 years when we ended the Cassava project in March 2019. And you see that it's going to actually progress upward. Now, when you look at high quality cassava flour versus starch and ethanol has a good forecast for the future. The determination rate, that we use that to be able to see the model, and it's better, far, far better than HQCF. And that's why my point is starch, ethanol,
are good for all of us. But if you must go into the business today, Nestle is also looking for high quality cassava flour. And we've just discussed with Standardization of Nigeria. We've seen where the error comes on the standards. The current standard is okay. I charged it in 2005 under Chief Dixon, and I also charged it in 2014. There was an error of omission of 0 for the aerobic count, where they were talking of 10,000 coliform count per unit, supposed to be 100,000 CFU. I've already phoned them, and I told them they will forward it, and I can sign as the chairman of that technical. It doesn't need any national meeting. So in summary, those are just my own teas. The point today is that the investors, the private players, development partners, financial groups are the one advancing the cause of cassava industrialization in Nigeria. And I must thank you very much. The implication is that we may not need policymakers if we continue to do it. By tomorrow, we have to discuss to make this meeting a permanent meeting. It could be twice in a year for us to be able to review the business and the trade. Nestle is here, Cadbury is here, SON is here, NAFDAC is here. All of us are here. Research institutions are here. Our grand mentor has told you, no more research. We have all the solutions. Let us all work together and get it done. Thank you very much.
A round of applause again to Professor Latif Sani. Thank you so much, and I actually admire your energy, sir. Thanks to also Dr. Dixon for being a very good teacher. All right, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I think we have spent some time. This is past 5. We were supposed to stop at 5 o'clock. May I invite the leader of the Cassava Compact, Dr. Adebayo Abbas. Please, can you come over and let us know what next to do? Maybe I bring the microphone here so everybody can see.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to join Godwin to thank you for your time. Not just for today. Many of you traveled the whole day of yesterday. Some traveled for about 3 days. Colleagues, we have colleagues that came from outside Africa. So I thank all of you for your time. And I will still request that you still provide the time tomorrow. There are people who were not able to make it today. I would really encourage that if you know them, let them come tomorrow. We need everyone to be on the table tomorrow. Tomorrow is the business day. Business discussion will require that you consider yourself as a representative of others who are in the same business that you do in Cassava. What we want to try to do is to develop the structure for cassava development, cassava enterprise enhancement in Nigeria. So our discussion tomorrow will be pairing of groups of business people. Cassava farmers are business people. Processors are business people. The two groups would sit and discuss what are the issues that we're having. What do I not know about the other side that I should have known for me to do business better with them? So processors, please explain exactly what you expect farmers to know for them to be able to sell cassava to you. Farmers also need to listen to some of us who are researchers because of the technologies that are available for them to use to increase productivity, increase their yield, and reduce their cost in such a way that they would then be able to sell cassava to the processors at the price that the processors would agree with them. This is just an example of what is going to happen tomorrow. And we would take our time to document the discussions so that we will have something to present at the end of the meeting as the direction to go with respect to increasing business opportunities for cassava in Nigeria. So same thing would happen between processors and the end users. Same thing will happen between bankers and processors, those who have taken money from the bank. Do they require to restructure the loan that they took? If they want to take additional loan, if they are interested, or not, for them to do better business and be able to pay back the loan that they have taken from the banks. This is the essence of this meeting. And of course, I have seen today that businesses, discussion with respect to I want to sell, I want to buy, are already ongoing. I want that to continue tomorrow. Those who are looking for products, identify those who will sell to you. But for us, we would like to know what you have benefited from this meeting. You will be on the platform. We will continue this. Investment forum should be something that should continue. Like I said in the morning, I would really like to see that we graduate from this type of discussion to business entity, a single business entity for Cassava for the country. That is the direction that I want us to move to. So the meeting tomorrow will basically be business meetings. We will provide additional information to you when you come in the morning. Thank you very much and good night.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy that there are so many people gathered for the cause of cassava. And I really hope that after this meeting, we'll have an action plan. For example, we need to have a policy. And that's the only way we can drive this whole thing. Thanks for your time, and I hope to see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you very much, man. Good night, everybody. Thank you.